Hello and welcome to this post-Brexit edition of OMFG Sarkar. I'm Ash Sarkar for Novara Media, and today we're here in Barking to find out just what's going on a fortnight after the referendum. Barking's MP Margaret Hodge proposed a motion of no confidence in Labour's leader Jeremy Corbyn, citing his failure to successfully campaign for Britain to remain in the EU. But Barking, her own constituency, voted overwhelmingly for Leave, 62.4%, and that's a margin of 18,000.
I actually voted to leave, and I think, well, yeah, if we got the right sort of government to do that, yeah, I go with it.
I think we really needed a change because the government have been promising for a long while with immigration and with NHS and things like that.
What did you feel was being imposed on this country that otherwise wouldn't be?
I just think that there's lots of different rules and regulations that the EU and Brussels were imposing on us. The immigration was definitely an issue.
Barking very famously has been a flashpoint for conflicts between Labour and UKIP and earlier Labour and the BNP. Do you see those politics along ethnic or racial lines playing out in the Leave vote, or do you think it was more to do with economics?
I think a lot of it was probably to do with the racist side. We probably just to get immigration down and things like that. We can't now get into properties like council, or we can't get things from the hospitals. There's so much a waiting list now.
Lots of people are scared about whether or not they can stay. Lots of people are scared of racial street harassment. What would you say to those people regarding the referendum result?
I think that a majority of the people in this country are very tolerant and very and welcoming to the immigrants. They shouldn't worry. I'm sure that the politicians, as soon as they sort themselves out, will negotiate the right deal for everyone in the country.
Do you feel that there's more like racial segregation and antagonism?
There is more. Everyone is open now to racial segregation, so hopefully it should resolve itself soon.
I mean, there's been a five-fold increase in racist attacks on the streets. I've personally experienced some of them. And one of the things that I've been coming across is that lots of English people who did vote Brexit are very much in denial about that. Do you think there's any way to resolve it?
I just think we should just come together, but the thing is, at least they're open now. So now we know where everyone else stands. But we just want the nation in peace. That's all we need right now.
EU Referendum.
Yeah.
Now talk. At the end of the day, right, I think that it is a brilliant idea that we left the EU, because there are so many foreigners coming over and taking our jobs. I know it's not just all them foreigners, because I know some of the foreigners are doctors and some of them foreigners can save our lives. There are some foreigners that are coming over and taking our jobs, yeah, and not even working. And they're working.
They take our jobs if they're not working?
Because they do it. They do it. Simple as that. They take our jobs, yeah, and they're not even working. They say that they're signing on for a job and they do that job, but they're not even doing the job. They just send their money over to the people, over to their families in a different country. And I don't think that's fair, because they're getting something for nothing and their families are getting something for
May I
nothing.
ask how old you are?
I'm 17, but I know I'm 17 and I think I speak sense.
If you want me to say it, I'll say it. I don't give a damn, okay? We fought, we voted, we got in. In regards to these people, whoever these people are, I don't give a damn. We got in. It was fair. Everybody voted to come out of the EU.
Do you think that there are groups of people out there who might feel differently, who might be feeling more scared, a bit more vulnerable, a bit less optimistic?
They probably are. But
But
we've got to think of our own people and all. All these people that's coming by boats, causing themselves to drown and stuff like that, because they're doing it to themselves. They know damn well it's too many people in there. As in, our kids can't even get out.
I really appreciate the honesty of your comments, but I disagree entirely. These are people fleeing war. They once had cities, lives, just like ours here, and they've been reduced to rubble.
But what can you do? I mean, we're not the only country in this world, are we?
No, and in fact we're taking far fewer refugees than other European countries.
Well, maybe, you're right. You probably are right.
A lot of men with them. Why don't they give them arms to fight for their country, like other countries have to do?
Very funny. You've got Africa, right? You've got all wasteland in Africa. right? Then people could go there, right, and start living there.
He's ill. He's been ill before Christmas. They stopped his money for 6 weeks.
7 weeks.
7 weeks.
Do you not think that's the fault of the Tory government rather than the immigrants?
They'd also starved me for 7 weeks as well.
Precisely.
I think the Tories have ruined this country. I think they have. And what they're doing to Jeremy Corbyn, I think it's bad, really bad. I met him, right? And he's a lovely man. I think they should be done for what they're doing. They should be stopped.
But you don't see a difference in his view on immigration and your view on immigration?
I don't know his point on that.
He believes in accepting more refugees, especially from Syria.
I don't agree with that. You can't agree with everything they say. Everything a politician comes out with, you can't agree with everything. No, I don't agree with that. But he's good for this country, and he don't forget us. He's for us.
All right. So 2 weeks after Brexit, how are you feeling?
I feel devastated because the majority of people that voted were all old, and their decisions isn't really going to make a big effect on them. It's going to affect young people more. No one's going to have confidence with voting again because they're going to feel like it's all rigged and their voice didn't matter.
The panic is there. People are not really sure what is going to happen next. We don't know what's going to happen to our children.
I lost my job since the Brexit.
Seriously?
Yeah, our share prices just went plummeting down, and then they suddenly said that they're going to make cutbacks and things like that, and then next thing you know, I've lost my job. So
leaving the EU is kind of a good thing because, like, I don't know, because it's not really affecting me in any way. I see other people and they like all my friends and stuff, they feel happy about it.
Lots of people have been saying that they've seen like an increase in like racism, particularly towards people who look Muslim or are perceived as Muslim. Have you experienced any of that, or have you seen any of that?
No, I haven't.
People actually have turned really racist since the Brexit, and I feel that London and England are very much stronger in the European Union itself. And I just can't believe that this is actually happening. Let's take Hitler, right? He just wanted to banish everyone and just for the Germans to live long in Europe. And how did he turn out? How did he turn out? He turned out dead. I mean, that's the way I think it's gonna be. I mean, that's the most logical way to put it in words.
So you see this as part of like an uprising of populist fascism?
Exactly. That's how I see it. How could they do such a thing? I mean, we're all people, right? We all deserve jobs. We all deserve a living.
it's not that it benefits them or not. You know, they don't care about whether it benefits or not. They just want to be English proud and say they want their country back, and that's it. You know?
Yeah. How do you feel after all that?
Like I've just gone 3 rounds with Anthony Joshua. I stayed up all night watching the referendum coverage like an idiot. And after the Sunderland result came in, which surprisingly voted Leave, all the reporters, be they from the BBC, ITV or Sky News, started saying the same thing. They started saying that the Leave vote reflected a protest vote by an alienated, forgotten white working class. And they used that phrase, white working class. Barking and Bradford are really working class, hard hit by austerity, hard hit by deindustrialisation, and yeah, you can start thinking of it as anti-establishment in that way. But they're not racially homogenous towns, right? And then you've got places like Broxbourne, you've got places like South Buckinghamshire, which aren't really working class at all, though a bit more racially homogenous. So let's think about what happens when we racialise the working class as white. Specifically, let's think about what whiteness is doing here. Not just as false consciousness, which means that white working class people can identify with elitist toffs like Boris Johnson, but as a sense of entitlement and as a sense of aggrievement. There's a hell of a lot to unpack in what we got from the Vox Pops today, which is why I feel mildly concussed. But one of the things that I found really interesting was that when white people were confronted with the increase in incidences of racist street harassment, they were really casual about it. People were saying, yeah, it's really bad that these racist things are happening, but what's important is that we've taken control of our country back. So there's an element of cognitive dissonance. They're disavowing that violence, but at the same time, I think, tacitly condoning it as being a necessary part of reclaiming British sovereignty. It might look like we're being selective in our footage, but we honestly didn't come across a single white Remain voter today. People were talking about strains on the NHS, people were talking about precariousness in their employment, people were talking about housing, but the way in which responsibility was being allocated was really interesting, and a lot of the time it just didn't make any sense. The people saying this stuff are obviously really vulnerable in their own way, and I really wouldn't want to downplay that. That feeling of vulnerability, of being under attack by a cruel and brutal state, I think is a fair analysis of what's going on. So what else did we learn today? Oh, we learned that it is possible to be incredibly xenophobic and, let's not beat about the bush, incredibly racist, and still support Jeremy Corbyn. Now, this isn't a par on Jeremy Corbyn's politics because my man Jacob's for life, but I think it points towards failures on the part of the left. And what we have failed to do is unpick and dismantle this formulation of the white working class. What we've failed to do is look at how class is inherently racialized. So what that means is you're more likely to be working class if you're a person of color. And that race itself is materially constituted. So what that means is you're less likely to be paid well, less likely to have good employment opportunities or good educational opportunities, less likely to have good access to healthcare. There was actually a lot of differentiation politically amongst the people of colour that we spoke to. So some people weren't worried at all about leaving the EU. They weren't worried about the economy. They weren't worried about an increase in racist violence. Others, however, were very worried about those things. Normally I end my videos by asking what you think, like holla at me at IOCaesar, at Novara Media. And I'm still interested in those things, but to be honest, I want to hear about what you're doing. I want to hear what you're fighting for. I want to hear what you're struggling against, because right now the stakes of our survival are so very, very high. And in the words of Assata Shakur, we have a duty to fight for our freedom. We have a duty to win.